Hey everybody, Theta here, back with Stone Face Reactions. I don't know why I introduced myself first. I've got to get out of that habit. Lessons is also here, as per all the previous recordings we've done. Yeah, doing Macross. We just watched episode 2, where we're still under attack, and as far as I can tell, we're still losing, but we're gonna fold. Space fold, I believe. Uh, what's your takeaway?
Something you said during the recording, like, oh, they didn't know that the bunkers would protect people, and it makes sense. But I don't think they ever tested the weapon. Apparently, they never test fire the weapon, so they know how destructive it was. And it's a nice little detail to say that they had plans for stuff like this, like, oh, there might be an attack, so we're gonna put people in bunkers to protect them, right? It's not like in other places, like, oh yeah, destruction of the city. Well, the civilians can go to hell. We don't care.
Well, it's funny because I think I equated this right off the bat with One Punch Man. You know, Saitama does a punch and the entire like cliffside vanishes like off to the horizon. There's nothing left. And that's what it looks like when the Macross blows that away. Maybe this inspired Saitama's punch. Who knows? But
Oh, but
the idea being, God, I've lost my train of thought already. The idea being, in One Punch Man, when a like worldwide threat or a citywide threat happens, they still try to evacuate the city. It doesn't matter how damaged everything is. They have like a whole evacuation network set up. And my point was I would not be able to look at the devastation one alien weapon did and think that's where the bunker's built into, you know, and think, well, I think I had talked about the flippancy of the people on the street to the Valkyrie that was just flopping around, destroying everything, and how they don't seem to like care, like they're not running around. And I think, given the situation of thinking, well, the bunker's fucked, I'm not running to the bunker, that I would just go ahead and go with like, well, we're all fucking dead. Let me watch the show. You know. It also occurred to me just now that I had a whole Thetis thoughts about last episode where I said I apologize for not doing a recap, and then I didn't do a recap last episode. Uh,
so let's go ahead.
well, I'll do the recap for both of them then. First episode was Booby Trap. The launch ceremony for the rebuilt alien spaceship Macross is interrupted by the arrival of the alien. Okay, spoilers are in the recaps of the alien Zentradi forces, as well as a booby trap in the Macross itself. A civilian pilot named Hikaru Ichijo?
Ishiyo.
Is it,
Ishiyo.
say it?
Ishiyo.
Ichijo. The IJO throwing me off. Ichijo is drawn into the conflict. And then last episode, Countdown, Hikaru and Roy try a bold rescue mission. I get these off of IMDb, by the way, because they are the shortest recaps. I learned this lesson because when we were watching Overlord, they were like 5 paragraph recaps, at which point, that's the whole goddamn show. And I'm not doing that. So I guess the bold rescue mission from last time was literally, well, he did air shows in the circus. And in the like old timey circus air shows was literally someone standing on top of the plane and then falling off and maybe doing a loop de loop to get picked back up. So should entirely be in his wheelhouse.
I mean, those are not still done. I mean, what's called wind walking. That's what it's called, wing, where people are strapped on top of a biplane, stuff like that.
Yeah, you put your
Though
foot
that
through
is,
like hoops into the top of the
yeah,
plane.
yeah, that is still kind of done in some circuses, but it's not as risky as it used to be, or at least appearing as risky as it used to be, like people dropping off or whatever, as far as I know, right? Because the FAA will not allow it,
Yeah,
basically.
no, it got big into health and safety at some point.
Yeah.
Can still smoke in the bar, can't stand on the plane. I know. They're exactly the same thing, right? But the recap for Booby Trap gave away the name of the alien forces, which, to be fair, I knew already. There's no way I was looking up thumbnail images and not one of them having the name Zentradi in there. But still, it tells me now that the IMDb recaps are going to be giving me names for stuff I'm not going to know otherwise. Um, I don't know. I don't think I have much to cover because the last episode was just a lot of sight gags and little bits of action.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of feels like if this feels like these episodes should be run together. Like they were probably made for like a movie of the week or like a mini series, right? So if you see them back to back, they kind of they flow better. But when they get chopped out like this, it's like, oh, this is just like a little piece of a much larger
Yeah, like
story, right?
Battlestar Galactica, right? The first
Yeah.
first thing is a movie, and then we want to make some more movies. And I thought, no, how about you make some more shows? And then we're just gonna cut up the first movie into a bunch of episodes for that new show that you're making us. Then maybe the first Macross could have been put together as a movie. Oh, they did, didn't they? Isn't Do You Remember
They,
Love a movie for this?
yes, but they made a new movie for that.
I mean, I'm sure Macross has its compilation movies too, right?
Probably.
Like
Uh,
Gundam has like the first three movies to cover the entire first series, where they trim stuff out and add stuff in, that sort
yeah.
of thing.
Do you remember, Love? They do change a couple of things, so that they compress and change quite a bit. So yeah, it's basically the story of Space War One, which is what's called this conflict will be called. Uh, but kind of like it's almost like TNG to TOS, and it's like Roddenberry put a lot of stuff in TNG that he wanted to see in TOS, like a bar and stuff like that. It kind of feels like that. It's pretty cool. When we get to it, we'll see it. I want to mention what exactly changes because it's a spoiler. Not a big one, but still. But it kind of feels like that. Like, wow, this was like somebody who went back and went like, what if we did this because we couldn't do it back then, right? But these 4 or 5 episodes that we covered so far, these 4 episodes, kind of feel like they would be more like a mini series or like a intro movie to the rest of the series, right? Because especially in the third episode, it's like, oh, we're still in the middle of a battle, right? Which is a weird way to break, right? Like, oh, we're gonna have these things happening in the middle of the battle. That would be part of a much larger
I don't
episode,
know. It
right?
works in like live action. Again, going back to Battlestar Galactica, that's like the first 2 or 3 episodes, right?
Mhm.
Because you get to know your characters better when they're in danger, because then you get to see what they're really like instead of like introducing them and like, this is Starbuck and he's in love with, I can't remember in the original series who the fuck they're in love with. This is Starbuck, he's in love with blah, blah, blah. And you get to see him like trying to flirt and mingle and all that shit. Versus, this is Starbuck, he's trying to save this girl's life. And then you see what he's really about.
Yeah, but I mean, the pacing is like this is stuff that in most series you would have the entire battle, including those things, and then that would stop the episode. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, but I mean also, the speed at which the first episode went, even if you were to cut out the first part with like Hikaru meeting Roy and them doing the whole Captain Global getting onto the ship and everything. If you were to cut that out, include episode 2 into it, and then made episode 2 faster, I still don't think we'd cover the whole battle in one episode.
that's true.
Because I remember when we got done with episode 1 thinking, man, that went by quick. It's like the battle's just starting, or we just met the aliens, and a bunch of people are dead. People we don't care about because they don't appear on screen ever. But you know, no one's died that we know the faces of.
Yeah.
But it went quickly. And episode 2, I mean, kind of felt a little quick. Granted, it was more slapstick comedy. Like, there's more comedy in this than I expect so far. Like,
It's yeah, it slowed down a little bit with Hikaru just messing around with the robot. Like, okay, we're gonna have spend a couple of minutes talking, introducing him to Min May and crashing about that he doesn't know how to play the robot. So yeah, but once he's done with that, once Roy shows up, it picks up again pretty quickly.
yeah, yeah. I'd say, I guess maybe I got spoiled a bit on Macross Zero's pacing. Because, I don't know, even that, I guess, was a little bit off because it was filled with I don't know what you'd call them, just action shots. People want to see the jet fighters fighting, so we're gonna put in a lot of jet fighters as our filler between the narratives. But the narrative of Macross Zero was like on point, whereas this seems like we're not gonna do a lot with what we have right now because we want to save that for later, I'm guessing. What we're gonna do is look at this guy. He almost killed a girl in a third story window because he doesn't know how to pilot. Oh, look at that. Captain Global doesn't know how tall he is versus how tall the ship he's commanding is. You know?
Yeah, it feels like a lot of little fillers. Ironically, it feels like there's a lot of little fillers to stretch out the episode, but there's still, like you said, so much battle to go through because they do go through the steps of the battle. It's not like, again, in another shows like, oh, the enemy shows up, we have a dogfight and that's it. The enemy shows up, they do recon, they have a battle in space, they launch fighters, then they launch, they decide, okay, we're gonna do a bombardment. Right? In a sense, those battle sequences make sense in a way a real war would do. Like you do it by phases and it stops, starts, and stops. Sci-fi and fiction, of course. But rather than in most battles, like, oh, enemy shows up, we have a shootout, and that's it, right? And that's done, and then we move on.
I can't help but think that my guy here in the overlay right here, that I've chosen Zap Brannigan as my commander here because he is sending waves and waves of his own men and doesn't seem to give a shit that all of his ships are just blowing up when they approach the Earth. So, I mean, you're saying it's very much like real war. It's like to a certain extent. You might remember we started this up with me telling you how I was going back and re-editing Legends of the Galactic Hero stuff, where it's like, oh, the scout ship is reporting this. Oh, the scout ship's gone. It's like we're getting all these tactical layouts of where the ships are and all this stuff. In this one, it's like, oh, the scout ships, send them in. Well, they're dead. Send in some more scout ships. It's very nonchalant about the losses he's incurring.
Yeah.
But yeah, any other thoughts?
I think this is there's a little bit of spoiler because of what happens. So this is the episode where things get really interesting and
Well,
kind of pays off a couple of things that we've already seen.
I'm assuming we're about to Voyager ourselves out. I don't know. That's not the example I wanted to use, but I can't remember. There was a 1990s show where these kids that are space cadets and they have like mech warrior things inside of their spaceship get like randomly teleported across the galaxy, and that's what I'm equating this to. This space fold, because I'm assuming it's going to be an untargeted space fold.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing that. And I think that was the pilot that originally was supposed to be like a battle tech pilot, but
Hypernauts, I
then
think that was called
yeah, hyper,
Hypernauts.
yeah. It's just it actually was again a mini series or a couple of episodes, and that was it. It didn't last long.
Yeah, it was, well, it was ahead of its time.
Yeah.
I would say it's ahead of its time. I think it was exactly the same time as VR Troopers or Big Bad Beetleborgs, in
Yeah.
which,
That also reminds me of a mini series that never made into a series, which were this Disney ship that was crewed by teenagers because it was supposed to be like a generational ship. And it's a thing that this bad guy shows up and wants to stop them or whatever because the Earth was dying.
oh,
And
I
he
think
yeah,
I've brought this up many times. Project Genesis, is that what it is?
I don't remember the name, but
Sci-fi TV show. It has a girl that looks like a teenage Angelina Jolie. Oh, no, not Angelina Jolie. What is the girl from Hackers? What's her name?
Angelina Jolie.
Is
Yeah,
that Angelina Jolie? Well, it looks like Angelina
yeah,
Jolie. The kids on board are actually clones of like from a data bank of human genomes, because humanity is dying from a virus, and like they've got the memories of, or they've got fading memories of who they originally were, and the computer brings them back up just to repair the ship. Uh, and then they refuse to like. I actually, now that I think about it, there's a show you're talking about that actually was on Disney, and the show I'm thinking about was on the Sci-Fi Channel back when Sci-Fi Channel was a paid-for channel. And I think they're both based off of something called I can't remember the name of it. There's like a book. I think they're
yeah.
both based off the same book, but yours is more like interpersonal drama and like I think there's like a computer person walking around that's trying to
Yeah,
deal with them, whereas there's no computer person in the Project Genesis. It's just the computer voice demanding that
yeah,
they turn themselves back into jelly.
yeah. No, no. I think in my version there were no clones. There were the original astronauts, and they were chosen to be so young because it would take so long for the travel that that they had to
And some of
basically
yours were
either.
aliens too, weren't they?
I don't. I think they might have encountered an alien. There were a couple like 4 or 5 episodes. It never actually made into a full
There's a
series.
website called Toonami Aftermath where they
Uh,
rewatch 90s television shows. Now, like they branched off from just Toonami 90s anime, and they also watch like Nickelodeon in the 90s and stuff like that. And I'm pretty damn sure the show you're talking about was also in that lineup.
yeah, I'm gonna have to
Um,
check it out. I'll do deploy my Google Foo and see if I ever find it.
yeah, because the drama of Project Genesis is them remembering where they are because they have no idea what's going on. They effectively have amnesia. They wake up because an alien apparently attacks their ship, and they have no idea what the fucking alien is. And the part that gets me is that there's a part where the girl is suddenly getting these flashback memories of they're like on Mars, and the people are like in evacuation ships or like a spaceport or whatever. They've lost contact with Earth. There's no radio transmissions coming from Earth. They've gotten the last transmission from the moon colony. Apparently, everyone's dead there too now. And now they've gotten reports that whatever the illness is that's killing everybody is also been detected on Mars. And that's like the last flashback of memories that she's got from whatever genetic material she's cloned from.
Yeah, sounds interesting,
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, not good
but
enough
this is
that it
not
ever
that.
got continued. Yeah. So, Macross, but before we get started, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, comment down below to feed that algorithm. On top of all that, if you want to watch more shows like this, unfiltered, uncensored, and uncut, as well as some early access stuff, you can check it out over on the Patreon. It's just $5 a month, but hey, no pressure. It's all to support the channel, just a little bit extra. The intro is going to work itself up on me, but not today. So, why do you pick this guy as your guy?
I mean, as he was my hero back in the day, so
Any
I just
particular
stick with it.
reason? I mean, obviously,
Identify with him.
I'm not asking you to tell me what cool thing does he do. I mean, like, independently of what he does.
I think I identified with him when I was younger. I wanted to be a fighter pilot when I was a kid. So
It's fair enough. I want to be an astronaut. I see both of
yeah,
our dreams came true. I mean, fair enough. I don't think there's any anime character that is supposed to be a real normal human being that I would actually ever want to be.
yeah.
Also, I don't like the seating arrangements on the Macross bridge. Like I pointed out that I don't see how those little bumps behind where the people are standing up would ever save them. I think they'd break their legs. Well, it's clearly meant to
I
be a
mean,
thing where you like get bumped back into it. But I think any
yeah.
significantly large bump is gonna throw you back, and your legs are gonna be locked in place, and you're gonna snap your kneecaps off.
Oh. I think they're supposed to emulate a warship bridge where people are just standing, right? They're from the Star Trek school of no seatbelts.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Well, somebody on that bridge has a seat. I think the captain does.
Yeah.
And I get it too. It's probably from the realm of like cruise ship, right? The cruise ship, you have to be able to look down and over. You can't do that while you're sitting down. So you identified with the guy who got shell shock at his first
VT102 そういえばあのパイロットなんか変だったわ。
おお、君でもそう思うか。まあそのなんだ、あれは民間人だからな。
民間人です。
Would have known that had I checked the crew manifest of the pilots on deck. Also, why are the ball pods better than, like, battle armor? Imagine you're a giant, right? You'd have much more mobility in regular fucking armor. And just a gun. Your sized gun.
Also, the animation took a hit in this episode.
A lot
The
of
budget
shows,
started running out, yeah.
a lot of the shows that I've been watching lately have a problem where they outsource certain episodes to bad Korean animation teams because they're cheaper. Famously, episode 15 of OG Gundam, which got wiped from the history of Gundam. Well, at least that explains why he goes to the prop plane. Dude got him in the death grip.
どうしたの？震えているようだけど。何？どうしたの？
見ちゃダメだ。
なんで？どうして？
見るな。
おい、ヒカル、いつまでもたもたやってるんだ。あ、お前こういうのに好かれんのか。封印よの。
I guess he can't jettison the arms and legs, huh? It just seemed like when Shin hit the jettison button back in Zero, he jettisoned all those bits. Like they were detachable. Okay, we can just attach a second cockpit, no problem.
Wait a minute. How did he shoot that guy when the cockpit is supposed to be where the gun is?
So yeah, I also was noticing, it's like, where are they right now? The cockpit's not there.
Yeah.
What is the crew complement of the Macross?
I don't know.
こちらマウンテン3、着艦ラインに乗った。
着艦 OK。
早瀬君、バルキリー隊の収容は終わったかね。
はい。
So you do have a readout of how many pilots there should be.
残りはフォッカー少佐と VT102 の民間人とかを残すだけです。
ホッカー君ならば心配なかろう。バネッサ君。
What you're saying is calming, but your face reads as panicked.
ランデブーポイントに向かって減速中。20分後に接触する予定です。
よろしい。クローディア君、こちらは順調かね。
予定通りです。でも艦長、おかしいですね。
ん？
敵の艦隊はあれだけの攻撃を衛星軌道上からできるのになぜ撃ってこないんでしょうか。
やはり気になるか。
ええ。
面白がっている。
I'd be wondering if that was the only place they were attacking, right? Were they shooting at any other part of Earth?
ちょっとそんな気がしただけだよ。まあ気にせんでくれ。
I dropped this bomb on you guys, but don't worry about it. It's fine.
Sorry, I wasn't even paying attention to that. I was reading all the signs and words in the background, and it reads like how modern AI would create a scene with stuff written in the background. It's like
Yeah.
nonsense
島の
words,
シェ
and
ルター
sometimes
に
they're not even
私のお
words.
じとおばがいるんですけど。
シェルターなら安全だ。全面戦争になってもな。
でもやっぱり島に帰りたいんですけど。
戦闘が終わったらちゃんと私が送って差し上げよう。
その方がよっぽど心配です。
ああ、いやこちらはスカルリーダー。
忘れ物は見つかりまして。
敵に怯えてのたうち
I'm really wondering when he gets back to his prop plane.
これがその民間人ですか？道理で何も知らないわけね。
なんですこのおばさん。
おば。
マクロスの航空管制オペレーターさ。しかし、早瀬
I did discover that the people that made this also did make Galaxy Express 999.
フォッカー少佐、民間人が VT102
So it matches up with me thinking that she looks like the mother from that movie show.
それからヒカルさん、あなたもただじゃおかないわよ。
なんですかあれ。
謝った方がいいんじゃない？この手の人は怖いわよ。
着艦するぞ。指示頼んますよ、おばはん。
了解。そちらも死なない程度に気をつけて。
Even the captain was like, okay, I'm not messing with her.
I'm not writing it off. It could still be a thing. So what? 2 or 3 of them jumped off. One got off and takes off.
はい、敵艦の動きは大気圏上層部を依然上昇中。先ほどの宇宙艦隊と合流する模様です。どうします？撃ち落とすのは簡単だが、あの艦には興味がある。このまま衛星軌道に出られては、ポールとして逃げられてしまう可能性が。わかった。合流前に牽制攻撃をかける必要がある。全艦砲撃準備。
I appreciate that they're concerned with what they know is possible, which has nothing to do with what our characters know. You know, effectively, what if a bunch of ants took control of a gun laying on the ground? You're super worried they might figure out how to shoot you. They have no concept
Yeah.
of it's a gun.
どうしてあんな殺し合いをするんですか。
それが戦争さ。
Something happened to your face, Roy.
どうも。
Yeah,
お前だって撃ったじゃないか。
all of them, really.
まさかあんなのが乗ってるなんて。
The logo on his chest looks very familiar, too.
あんなのが。
ねえ、あんなの
Might
っ
be
て
a alternate Kryptonian logo.
いや。
そらよ。着いた。
先輩、ひどいじゃないですか。
うん。
Well, that answers that question.
ああ。先輩。
We brought it on board and stored it deep within the ship for no reason.
ああ、まあ片付けておいたんだ。
あ
これ、今朝の航空ショーの時のよね。
アームド1、アームド2、ランデブー終了。ドッキング体制に入ります。
One of those got destroyed in the first episode.
俺は仕事があるから。
Armid 1 was the one that destroyed. Armid 2 is heavily damaged.
Yeah.
But they're fine now.
ドッキングラインに乗りました。
Let me guess. I'll form the legs.
よろしい。敵艦隊と戦艦の間にビームを撃て。戦艦に当てなければ小型艦は撃破しても構わん。了解。これより攻撃を開始する。目標は敵艦隊。戦艦は目標から外す。
Well, I also like the fact that this little command deck. He's got like little viewing goggle things on poles to look down at his command deck.
Well, they were not destroyed before, and now they're destroyed.
I said, my guy is so good, he destroyed the same ship twice.
攻撃か。
はい、攻撃は前回と同じ衛星軌道上から距離1万2000キロです。アームド1およびミランダ・アキシマ
Again.
2隻撃破されました。
まとめて3隻もか。本艦の損傷は
直撃弾はありません。各セクション異常なし。
本艦の位置は
はい、ほぼ地球を一周して南アタリア島
What was the name of the ship Khan was found in
120
TOS?
クローディア君。
Botany Bay.
The Botany Bay.
南アタリア
Yeah.
島に着陸すると見
The
ら
the other warships that aren't the carriers in this kind of remind me of the look of the Botany Bay.
確かにリスクは大きい。しかし、ここでとどまっていればやられるだけだ。
I mean, they'd be contemporary, wouldn't they?
やっても
Star Trek comes around at the same time.
空間転移
60s, never mind.
ホールドシステムスタンバイ。
I don't got time on my brain.
月の裏側。座標チェック島の上空でホールドする。
Okay, so we do know about full technology.
敵の意表をつくのだ。
そんな東郷軍本部に許可を取らないでもいいんですか。
And the UN won the war.
非常時だ。連絡は月から取ればよい。
しかし、
君は命令だよ。
イエスサー。フォー
In
ドシステム
English.
スタンバイ。全艦非常配置。動力システムチェック。オールグリーンパワー収束。
Lock down all animals in the zoo. Cancel the three-ring circus. I repeat. I repeat. Prepare for ludicrous speed.
ああ、静かになったようですな。
もう終わったんやろうか。
Yeah, we're the same organization.
祭り騒ぎですな。
Yeah.
I guess the anti-U are just fucked off at some point.
わしらの
Yeah.
全部ちかね。
お姉ちゃんどうしちゃったのかな。帰ってこないけど。
何も逃げるところはここだけじゃないんだから。
I don't know, I just thought because Captain Global has a different logo on his hat than the captain of the UN Space Forces, by the way, did
Yeah.
in... Maybe they just had a bad continuity officer.
This episode seems to be full of him.
君だって借り
No, not even this episode, like the first two episodes where he's wearing his hat.
Yeah.
It's just a different
Yeah.
logo.
ホールド3分前。何かしら。
そう出てくんだから関係ないって。
これ一人乗りでしょ。
いいじゃない。さあ乗って。
うん。
これかぶって。
See, if I came into this knowing that the Macross can go, like, anthropomorphic or whatever, I would assume fold was just another word for transform. You're in space right now.
No, they went back to our the atmosphere.
しっかり捕まって。
Oh, right, yeah, they were descending.
うわ、ケーキが見えない。
ごめんなさい。
This is your fault.
このぐらいで怖がってどうすんの。ほらね。
本当。
ホールド突入10秒前。
I sure love it when, what was it, Season 2 of the new Battlestar Galactica did this.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah, the Adama maneuver.
Yeah.
ゼロ。
ホールド突入。
All I can think of now is all future sci-fi shows that ripped off all these anime that we're watching. Hey, that ship we called in to help us. Glad it's finally here. Are they taking part of the island with them? I wonder what happens if you watch this with 3D goggles on.
Yeah, it would be trippy.
I feel like they just killed a lot of people. Like everybody who didn't get into the shelter, for example, is now taking a trip to the far side of the moon.
地表付近でフォールドするなどと
そんなことができるのか。
私にも分かりません。
直ちにデフォルトポイントを探し出せ。了解。
And everybody in those aircraft carriers too, by the way. Pretty sure the tops of the aircraft carriers not made to be airtight.
どうした？
サブシステムに切り替えます。
艦長、本艦の下方に物体があります。
当然だろう。ここは月の裏側だ。
いえ、それがもっと小さいようで、今スクリーンに出します。あ、物体が近づいてきます。
何？
いいえ、本艦が降下しています。
クローディア、推進機全開急げ。
やっているんですが、反応ありません。非常事態。
At the very least, I could see this being used as a weapon better than the... Was it the Holdo maneuver?
Yeah.
Doesn't involve suiciding yourself into something. You just get really close and then jump. Take half of it with you. You guys should be really worried about it getting really cold really fast.
Yeah.
うわー、綺麗。うわ
参ったな。プロペラ役に立たない。ダメだな。
Here's hoping you don't drift too far away.
ー、ここ、宇宙？
そう見える？よし。
何なの？
目覚ましじゃないことは確かだね。エアーが漏れてるなんて言えないもんな。
戻ろうよ。
まあまあ当てないで。ブースターが使えればいいけど。行くよ。
I'm sorry, did he just Pillsbury Doughboy her?
動くぞ。行けそうだ。
あ、
ところでマクロスはどこだ？よーし。よし。
I'm confused. Were those the Centrati forces fighting on an ice glacier, or were those the human people trying to cut themselves out of the... never mind.
Yeah.
It'll be too long to theorize.
Yeah. Question asked, question answered.
No clue why they're fighting over there. It seems like all those people are already dead.
まずった。
Unless you're the one guy on board the aircraft carrier who decided to wear a spacesuit today.
閉めた。
It's interesting. First of all, that he got his aircraft back, right? And that while it's a propeller aircraft, it also has like jet thrusters.
Yeah,
Otherwise, it would.
well, you
Yeah.
saw that in the first one where he's like, "What are you flying this out here for?" He's like, "Don't worry about me," and then he breaks off the jet thrusters and keeps up with the jet
Fighters,
engines.
yeah.
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 敵の残存部隊は殲滅した模様です。
シェルターの避難民は
収容中です。幸い死傷者は少ない。
Through what medium?
早瀬君、
はい。
統合軍本部との連絡は
We saw the bunker. It's one giant door in the mountainside.
故障ではないのか。
いいえ、
Well-
現在位置が
わかったのか。
It should
冥
have
王
a
星軌道のない
depressurization
違うこと。
system. And this is just headcanon.
冥王星？そんな
To protect against radiation and poison gas.
まあまあ待て。
Yeah, that's why I'm
So-
not questioning why it's not leaking air, because I assume
Uh-huh.
it's protected from that.
当です
But
か
I'm saying it's recessed into the mountain, and they're a giant brick of a ship.
なんだ
Where's the connecting point?
しかし
I don't think the Macross was built to connect to the bunker.
艦長
フォールドシステムが消滅したそうだ
消滅そんな
Also, again, they only covered the refugees at the bunker. I'm pretty damn sure the people on the ships are dead.
Yeah.
Technically not on the bridge.
Yeah.
長い旅になりそうだな
They did say they were at Pluto, right? Not the moon?
Yeah.
助かった喜びもつかの間皮肉にも
That'll wander the ship forever.
飛び込んだのは広大なマクロスの閉鎖区画だった二人の行方を知る者は誰一人いない閉ざされた空間から抜け出す目算も立たぬまま無情にも時は過ぎてゆく次回超時空要塞マクロス林民名
Time to get that romance arc going. Even though she's clearly been interested this whole time.
Yeah.
I'm constantly thinking to myself, and I'm sorry if this is a detriment to the show, you and the watchers here, that sometimes the show isn't thinking about the obvious things. And I feel like I've got to point out, like again, how I keep going on about the aircraft carriers. It's like, in what world would the aircraft carriers, anyone would still be alive?
Well, I think, and I could be wrong, those aircraft carriers, unlike the carrier we saw in Zero, were supposed to be submersible.
I wouldn't...
I will have to check other sources.
It seemed like
But
they had
still-
giant holes in them to launch
Still,
aircraft
I
from.
mean, if they find themselves in space, you know, whoever's not below decks in close bulkheads, is dead.
Still seemed like it had that upper deck bridge situation, which means
Yeah.
anyone who would be able to see what was going on is dead.
Yeah.
So nobody else is going to know. So then lock down. Because how much time would you even have to lock down the rest of the ship?
No, I think you will lock down in the moment there's combat. The moment that they didn't show up, they would have locked down.
No, and
Yeah.
even if they had like I don't know what you call it, the like the Titanic had, where it's like a series of locking chambers. Not even the Titanic, just the example I'm going with. In the middle of a combat, you just don't automatically lock those down because you still need your crew, like your engineering teams and whatever, to be able to get to one part of the ship to the other. You would only lock that shit down in case of like, we're taking on water. We need to isolate these.
No. In warships, when there's combat, you lock down. And if you need to go anywhere, then you open the specific bulkheads. Because the idea is, if you take damage in one section, you don't want that damage to spread to the rest of the ship.
That's what
You
I'm
wanna
talking
contain.
about. It's the same with cruise ships and whatnot. But you don't lock it down just in the middle of combat. You would lock down each section as is necessary. I don't know. What you're saying, maybe you have the expertise to know. I certainly don't, but I've never seen that in any like movie or anything, and I know movies are not reality. I'm just taking for granted that maybe one author or one producer or director may have, had somebody on set telling them.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't make sense for me from a logical standpoint. You would just automatically lock everything down.
Yeah, that's the first thing you do when there's combat. You lock not entirely everything, but most of the sections of the ship are locked down because again, that's also why you have battle stations. You don't want people milling around in places where it's not useful in combat. So even if you're like a cook, you have like a battle station, which could be just a corner of the ship, or it could be standing by for do damage, what's called damage control, or evacuating people, stuff like that.
You know what? I'm going to leave this one to the comments. This is going to be a thing, Lessons. It's not that I'm calling you wrong. I just,
Okay.
in my head, cannot parse this out to make sense. Not because what you're saying sounds wrong, because what you're saying makes perfect sense. I'm going to say that. I just don't think it makes logical sense. You're gonna want your crew that has specific duties across the ship, like engineering teams or whatever. I don't know why I'm trying to still debate. I said I'm gonna leave it to the comments.
No,
I
I get what you're saying because it is kind of counterintuitive. If you're gonna have a ship, you want people to be able to go back and forth, right? But the idea is that you lock it down, and your engineers are in certain areas, and that's why you train the entire crew to do damage control. That was the thing about doing a story about World War II. One of the benefits the Americans had over the Japanese, and the Americans learned this very quickly. The Japanese had dedicated damage control, people in their carriers, for example, which meant that if they got hit, injured or killed, or were in the wrong part of the ship, they couldn't really get to the parts they needed to do. The idea was you have an elite team that can deal with most of the damage while the rest of the crew keeps fighting the ship, which is what called when you're, in combat. The Americans learned that that was not always possible. Again, people can get injured, people can get killed, people can be in the wrong place. So you train everybody to do at least basic, what's called basic damage control. You put mattresses on and 2x4s on holes. You fight fires. You do first aid. Extensive damage control later on will be done by engineers later on. But when you're in the moment, you got to stop this fire right here, or this damage bulkhead or whatever. So yeah.
Well, that being said, I still don't think there's a submersible aircraft carriers. It's been only 1 year since the end of the Unification War, and we saw that the UN, by the way, the UN won, so these are probably the same type of UN carriers. They were capable of flight. It doesn't seem like you'd build submersible flying aircraft carriers at the same time.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. That's something I remember, but it could have been completely wrong.
Well, like I said, it's only been 1 year since the end of the war. It seems like it'd take time to build more things, and the only variety of aircraft carriers we've seen in this time period, I would assume, would be normal aircraft carriers of our modern day. Granted, this was written 2040. Sorry, when did this come out? 1984? So literally 40 years. 40 years before the modern day. So I would assume, doubt out of the way, modern aircraft carriers or our fantasy flying aircraft carriers with anti-grav units. I'm not going to assume a third mystical aircraft carrier that hasn't been shown yet. So if you think that your aircraft carriers are going to either fly in the air or stay on the surface of the water, I don't know that like a single or a number of bulkheads are going to save you from the freezing depths of space.
No,
They might hold the air in, but you're going to freeze to death before you run out of air, I think.
it might take a while.
It's the hull of a ship. It's not like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the life support systems on, say, the International Space Station are that keep it warmer than space. And I know space isn't itself. Well, space actually is very cold, but it has very little. Sorry, my brain stopped working. Yeah, I guess that's the word. It's not the word I was looking for. But yeah.
Yeah, because vacuum doesn't radiate.
It doesn't radiate. Yeah. I was thinking radiation, and I'm like microwaves, and like no, none of these words are right. It doesn't radiate heat because there's like no matter. There's not enough space dust with which to transfer heat from one part of space to another. But space is cold, so yeah, I don't know. I think those people are dead. I think we just write those people off. Also, the Macross, which somehow apparently docked with the bunker, did not mention those ships, and those ships are off somewhere else. Because apparently we cut a wide swath of space out because we could see the water around and everything.
Yeah.
And we never saw... Sorry, go ahead.
I do like the fact that the final picture, the pieces are breaking off. So apparently, they took off the surface of the island, right? Which is on top of a volcano, on top of a mountain, really, if you think about it, and shaved it off and brought water with it, and then eventually in 0G it started breaking off because there's nothing to keep it together.
Just two thoughts that come to my mind that you say that. One, if it really was a volcano, there's a good chance that there's now a volcanic eruption going on back at Earth. Considering you cut off the whole top layer of soil. Who I don't know how deep the volcano would have been itself, but it is the result of pressure buildup, which means that you cut off a big old part of the cap. Two, I'm always going to go back to Gundam because it's what I'm always thinking of. Really reminds me of the Janus 7 incident from Gundam Seed, which is where they destroy a space colony, but the space colony looks like this just giant colony on the inside. So they blow it up, and when you come across its remains, it's just like floating like fields and like harvesting equipment and this giant lake that's now just a giant ice cube floating through space with a bunch of shit from all the dead people inside of it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's a good effect, and I think it's even better that, like, we didn't go where we thought we were going to go. I said the far side of the moon. We're in Pluto. It's going to be a long trip.
Yeah, again, it reinforces the idea that while humanity got their hands on this technology, they don't fully master it yet. And so it's like, yeah, we're just going by our seat of our pants, right? It's like, oh, we should call the UN. Bitch, we're under attack. I'm not going to waste my time calling people on the phone. I just gotta go and do
that's
what I
what
need
the
to do.
Zentradi said, right? There's no way they'd understand this technology. They can't do this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even that they're under attack. What would the UN have done? Right? They already sent aircraft carriers. What else do we got?
Yeah.
We're already commanding 2 or 4 ships, depending on what the fuck we're doing with this naming scheme in orbit. Literally, the Armament 1, or what are they called?
Armor. I think they're in English they're called armor, but
Well, no,
I
I
don't
mean
know
the abbreviation. I think it's ARMD or something like that.
Yeah.
Aramid, whatever. Aramid 1 got destroyed. It's the very first carrier that we saw get shot up, and Captain Global, still hate the name, says it gets destroyed. Armament 2 is heavily damaged, which I guess implies still functional, just really barely hanging in there. And then we get Armament 2 and Armament 1 again. And Armament 2 not destroyed as much as you might think it is before it gets destroyed again. Like I said, the Zentradi commander is so good he destroyed the same ship twice.
Yeah.
And then the other one, I guess, is just heavily damaged again, so that when it can show up later, it can be exactly as it was in episode 1. Like I said, I feel like I'm thinking about things the show isn't thinking about. Or if you're right and this is just a lesser animation studio handling things for an episode.
Yeah, that happens a couple of times in this series. I mean, in fact, if you see the previews for the next episode, you can see that that animation is a little more consistent with what we've seen before.
I'll be honest, I'm not good enough eye to spot these things. So I know people are gonna be like, how can you not tell? Like, the jets get super thin or super wide and fat for some reason. It's like, I don't know, they just kind of look the same to me. This is why I don't really have a favorite, like Gundam, for example. They all kind of look the same. That was my giant complaint when I was watching Gundam 00. They're all basically the same with different colors. Any other thoughts? I think I'm about spent on my brain power.
Yeah, no, this is the beginning. This is really the beginning of the story because once we get here, it's all about going back home again, and it gets, things happen.
I guess the implication is that the Zentradi can't locate where they folded to, because otherwise you'd think it'd be real simple. Okay, well let's fold back over to them, and they're not gonna have any hope of doing anything. We'll then force a conversation or board their ship or whatever.
Yeah.
So I guess the implication is the Zentradi have no fucking idea where they're at.
I mean, space is big after all.
Yeah, but I don't know what like the sensor systems are on the Zentradi. Like their ship is such a mixture of. As I was pointing out, the commander is standing on this podium overlooking everything, like he was in the Star Destroyer, right? The Star Destroyer has the main deck where you just walk along and look down at everybody doing their jobs. But he has like, he's on vacation in New York and he's got those little spy things. Like you can put a quarter in and see what everyone's doing across the ship. So, I guess that's the size of the ship or anything, but it shouldn't. as shouldn't matter because everything should be relatively sized. That's what my point being that the technology level is just weird. People are working on maps. He's got like binoculars built into his command deck. Maybe their sensors are literally some guys out there in a ship with a telescope, just like, don't see him. So
somebody looking through a toilet paper tube, like
yeah. Sorry. When we teleported, my can with a string got broke. Yeah, that's all my thoughts for today. I think I'll leave everything else to my thoughts for next time. If you're done, okay. Well, that's been Stone Face Reactions, Theta Lessons, Macross. We'll catch you next time. Bye bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stone-Faced Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe and let us know what you thought about this video, what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?